Stories of love wrapped in lace and legend pull us into gilded rooms where every whisper sounds like a promise. Historical romance novels offer a doorway to a different epoch. A chance to feel the heat of a summer court. Or the hush of a snowbound manor. But behind the charm, there's a darker thread that often runs through the fabric, the way power, ownership, and what counts as romance can tilt the scale in unsettling directions. Tonight we're stepping past the candlelight to examine the dark side of historical romance novels. And why the shadows matter as much as the glow. We begin in a quiet library, where the world outside presses like rain on a window. The air smells of old paper and ink, of secrets waiting to be uncovered. In these stories, the hero is tall, polished, and always familiar with the language of desire. The heroine is drawn to him as if gravity itself has a favorite name. Yet the allure can crowd out a more honest look at the relationship's balance of power. When a society defines a woman's worth by her lineage, beauty, or obedience, romance can feel intoxicating while it also erases consent, chooses triumph over mutual respect, and wraps control in a velvet glove. The first shadow is unequal power. In many historical romances, a duke, earl, or soldier holds sway not just because of money or title, but because the era frames women as instruments of status. A heroine may be brave and clever, yet her options are often narrowed to marriage or tragedy. The tension of the era becomes simply the engine of romance, driving two people toward passion, even as it sidelines the woman's voice. It's easy to swoon at the moment when a noble rescues a fragile heroine. But the real question lingers in the margins: who is choosing, and who is accepting? The romance may feel electric, but the power dynamics can feel like a closing door. Consider the trope of the captor romance, where restraint becomes romance. A hero might demand loyalty, feverish devotion, or obedience, and the heroine discovers that safety lives inside a fog of control. The page-turning thrill can blur into a question: is her consent the bedrock of love? Or a plot twist that the story uses to heighten danger? In the best of these books, authors push back, showing a woman who refuses to be broken, who negotiates boundaries, who refuses to surrender herself to a relationship that would erase her agency. In the weaker versions, the romance is a map of control, the heroine falling into the arms of power, then calling it fate. As if love were a spell rather than a partnership. The heartbeat in these stories can thump a little too fast when the hero is wrapped in mystery, when the past is a locked room and the future depends on one kiss. The danger here lies in glamorizing dominance as devotion. Romance becomes a theater in which coercion is reframed as longing, and the harm is normalized with a sigh and a kiss. It's not that passion cannot exist in a world of rigid rules. It's that the narrative must hold space for the heroine's voice, for her right to choose, to resist, to redefine what love means on her own terms. A second shadow is the stain of colonialism and cultural erasure. Historical romance often glides through landscapes of empire, where romance can become an instrument of erasure rather than a beacon of mutual discovery. The heroine may traverse a colonial frontier, or a healer might be offered as exotic, a passport to exoticism rather than to genuine exchange. The strength of the hero can be tinged with the arrogance of the period, as if the world exists to fulfill his desires, including the colonized world's pain and history. When a story leans too hard into the romance of the conqueror, it risks glossing over real histories of displacement, consent, and dignity. The charm of the setting should never erase the humanity of people who lived through those times. Nor should it pretend that conquest creates virtue. Yet history is not a canvas meant only for critique. It is a living field where authors can invite growth and accountability. Some novels resist the easy myth and instead illuminate the costs of every choice. They give a heroine who negotiates a compromise with the era without surrendering her autonomy. They let a hero confront his own complicity, question inherited privilege, and learn to love with humility rather than control. These are not modern updates slapped onto old fashions. They are conversations with the past, where romance becomes a path to justice, empathy, and healing. When writers do this, the dark side is not silenced but reframed, so readers can feel the ache of history without losing sight of human dignity. A third shadow is the trope of the redemption arc that hinges on a woman saving a damaged man. In some narratives, a heroine's loyalty unravels the frost on a male lead who is wounded, cynical, or cruel. The romance rewards her resilience, but it also asks her to shoulder the burden of changing him. While transformation can be beautiful, it's not fair to expect a woman to bear the emotional labor of fixing someone who needs help more than he admits. The healthier questions to ask are: what does mutual repair look like? And who carries the burden of healing? When the story centers both partners, when consent is ongoing and conversations about boundaries are normal, romance can become a beacon of shared growth rather than a one-sided rescue. To visit these shadows is not to condemn romance itself, but to honor honesty in storytelling. A romance that embraces complexity can feel more real, more resonant. Read with a critical heart, and let the book invite conversation rather than surrender. Ask questions aloud: whose voice is centered here? How does the era inform the relationship's dynamics? Are both partners allowed to change their minds? Does the story acknowledge pain and consent as continuous, not one single moment? A romance that answers with courage invites us to hold both longing and responsibility in our hands. There is a brighter path that can coexist with the shadows. It's the path of nuanced heroines who claim agency without losing tenderness, and heroes who learn to listen, to negotiate, and to honor the person in front of them. It's the path of authors who treat history as a living conversation, recognizing that love in the past could be grand and flawed at the same time, and that a respectful, reciprocal bond can still feel mythic. When a book chooses to foreground consent, mutual admiration, and resilience, the romance gains a deeper resonance. It becomes not merely a fantasy of power but a testament to the strength found when two people decide to grow together. Even within darker corners, we can find acts of courage. A heroine might refuse a marriage not because she hates romance but because she wants a future that is hers to write. A hero could admit to his privilege and use his influence to protect those who cannot guard themselves. A couple might navigate grief, disease, war, or exile with honesty, leaving space for their feelings to evolve as they face the consequences of time. In stories like these, the shadows do not erase the glow of love, they illuminate it, showing that true romance can survive moral tests and emerge wiser, gentler, more enduring. For readers seeking both enchantment and integrity, here are the compass points that help separate romance that endures from romance that merely dazzles. Seek consent as an ongoing, explicit, and respected element of every evolving relationship. Look for characters who are not simply pawns of the plot but active agents shaping their destinies. Favor writers who interrogate power with courage, who show the consequences of desire in a way that is responsible and compassionate. And celebrate romances that heal as much as they thrill, where love becomes an invitation to grow, to forgive, and to redefine what a happy ending can mean. As we close the book on this exploration, let us remember how powerful storytelling can be. Romance can lift us, warm us, and give us hope. It can also push us to examine uncomfortable truths with empathy and care. If you're drawn to historical romance, allow yourself to drift through the pages with a dual lens. Admire the beauty and acknowledge the burden. Let the shadows teach you discernment, and let the light in the words remind you that love, in any era, is strongest when it is earned, shared, and freely given. If you're listening for a takeaway, here it is: The Dark Side isn't a verdict against romance. It's a reminder to demand complexity, consent, and courage in every love story. It's a nudge to seek narratives that honor history and humanity alike. And it's a promise that even in the most gilded settings, romance that respects both hearts and histories can be a beacon of hope, proof that endings can be both dramatic and humane. that longing can meet responsibility, and that a romance worth believing in can endure beyond the final page. So next time a historical romance catches your eye, pause for a breath and ask yourself what the story makes you feel, and what it asks you to consider. The best tales stay with you not because they erase the shadows, but because they illuminate the paths toward a more compassionate kind of love. And if a book can remind you that desire and respect can share a single heartbeat, you found a romance worth carrying into life as well as into fiction. Thank you for listening. If you're craving more conversations about the realities behind the romance,